Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm your host, Ellen Barrett. Thank you for joining us today. We have a great show for you today, and we are starting off with a new face on the show, Jack Orton. He's the director of Wisconsin Business World Conference. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
First time on Talk of the Town?
First time.
Going good so
Gonna
far?
Be the best time,
I haven't
sure.
scared him away yet.
Not quite yet.
You'll be coming back and telling us more every month.
Hopefully, yeah.
Awesome. So let's just start off with, I know we've had Business World on before and we've explained a little bit of what it's about, but for those who may not have caught that segment, what is Wisconsin Business World?
So basically, Wisconsin Business World is an educational program for high school students, and it teaches them the values of free enterprise, entrepreneurship, capitalism, all the things that make the big, beautiful world of business tick. And it was founded in 1982. Actually, our parent organization, the WMC Foundation, which is a 501c3 charitable foundation, it was founded on the premise of establishing a high school student education program like the one we have. So tradition is a big thing for us. We've been going for 34 years, hoping for 35 this coming summer. So history, tradition are a great big part of Business World's curriculum, but for the most part, it really puts students in the driver's seat with a first-hand experience of them running a company. And when I say run a company, I mean they spend 4 days, 3 nights on the campuses of St. Norbert College in De Pere and Edgewood College here in Madison. They spend 4 days, 3 nights with students their own age in high school, going through what a company experiences in real life, not in real time, but in real life. And what we do is try and convey to them, here are the different obstacles that you're going to have to overcome to make sure that your business either lives or perishes. And so it's really cool in the sense that students are really engaging. And when I say they run their own company, they pick the product, they pick the name, they assign the roles within the company, and they are really in charge of, the marketing and the accounting and everything else. And so it's really a cool way of exposing kids to all that great, big, beautiful world of business, like I said, that is sometimes de-emphasized in high school education. But
is there anything else like Wisconsin Business World out there today?
Sure. There, of course, like anything else, there are other programs, with ages ranging from middle school to underclassmen in college. We, however, are the only program that is an overnight business education program in Wisconsin that is taught by business professionals from all over the state. We have mentors coming in and teaching these kids about, okay, well that's a good idea in theory, but this is how it looks like in real life.
Wow.
And so we have it all year round. We have what is called the Mini Business World program, which is kind of a crash course, a one-day session that goes all over the state, talking to kids about here's why you should come to Business World in the summer. So it's a year-round experience. It's also one of the only overnight programs like it.
And I just think it's I love the idea of the business aspect of it, but also kind of the overarching theme that high school students get to go stay on a college campus and experience that before maybe they decide to go to college.
Yeah.
What a valuable experience.
Yeah, exactly.
The first time I heard about it, that's immediately what I thought of is, wow, I wish I could have had that experience, and it could have prepared you so much more, and just that growth and development that happens in that period.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's such a critical time. We originally were focusing on juniors going into senior year in high school, and I think that's such a crucial moment in their kind of academic career and even in their early adulthood, because that's the summer that all the applications start if you're going to college, or that's when you're starting scholarships. That's when you are starting to think, maybe I don't even want to go to college. Maybe I want to just go right into the business workforce. So it's really a critical time. And we now don't expose just juniors going into senior year. We expose it to business world to all ages in terms of in high school, freshman, sophomore, junior, and seniors. So it's really great.
What an incredible experience and just such a great opportunity. Be sure to check them out. You can find all of their information on their website. You can find out how to register, the dates that are coming up, so be sure to check that out. Again, Jack with Wisconsin Business World, thank you for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it, and we'll have you back again soon.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And we'll be back with more Talk of the Town here on Wisconsin's 57 right after this. Changing up the set to start off the episode today. This is Randy, and he's with Scooter Therapy, Inc. Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, my pleasure.
And thanks for bringing along this toy. Oh my gosh.
This is a wonderful vehicle, yes.
I was very surprised to see this roll into the set, but how fun. And I always say, you know, you can show people better than you can tell them. And what better way is to just show them. And this has to be, you know, one of the coolest mopeds I'd ever seen. And this kind of goes into what we're going to be talking about today. Scooters, electric motorcycles, and mopeds. So let's start off with mopeds, because that's what we've got here today. Why would someone need a moped?
It's very economical transportation.
Sure.
And in Madison, one of the big goals is it's easy to park.
Oh, that's so true. And I see a lot of people with them, you know, and you can just zing right through the streets.
Yeah.
And especially with traffic, maybe in rush hour in the morning or evening, that's one of the biggest headaches for me personally, driving a car. So I can definitely see that. And so kind of going off of that, this is my next question. Where can you ride and park a moped in Madison?
All the laws on a moped are the same as an automobile. So
Okay.
basically you just drive in the regular automobile lane. The big difference is in the parking, because if you're not on campus, you can park it just like a bicycle at a bike rack, as long as you're not impeding the sidewalk.
So very easy.
Yes.
Definitely all the perks of having a car, and you know, you don't need necessarily a parking space
Right.
to park it. So what is the difference between a moped and a motorcycle? Because honestly, when you came in, I wasn't sure if this was a moped or a motorcycle.
Wisconsin law says that a moped is something that has an engine under 50 cc, an automatic transmission, and is limited to 30 miles an hour. It's
Okay.
also only supposed to have one person on it, even though a lot of them are made to carry a passenger.
Ah.
Anything else, anything that shifts, has two people, or goes faster is a motorcycle.
Okay, so those are some of the differences.
Right.
So the people you see riding double on a moped are probably doing it illegally.
Yeah, if you're in doubt, you look at the license plate, because a moped will say moped right on the license plate.
Oh, interesting information. So also another question, what kind of driver's license do you need to operate a moped or a motorcycle?
With a moped, you just need a regular driver's license for an
Okay.
automobile.
Nothing special.
Nothing special at all. For a motorcycle, you have to get a motorcycle operator's permit added to your driver's license.
So that's something you have to go into the DMV and take a
Yes.
separate test?
Yes.
Okay, so something totally different than a regular driver's
Correct.
license. That's good information to know if you have been thinking about it. That's something you need to do. So what kind of maintenance costs can you expect when you use using a moped to commute, maybe rather than a car?
If you use a moped with any regularity, they usually they're quite reliable. Tires last a long time, batteries last for several years. The maintenance costs are actually very low.
Okay.
The downside to a moped is if you let it sit for several months without using it, the fuel can get stale.
Okay, so that's something if maybe you don't use it as much during the winter months, you should still go power it up and maybe give it a ride around the block?
Good idea, or drain the fuel.
Okay, that's good information too, now that it is getting colder here,
Right.
even though I would hate to admit it, it is, whether I like it or not. And so another question, kind of for scooter therapy as a whole, why buy from you guys rather than maybe buying online or looking on Craigslist or something like that?
Well, the downside to buying online is you never know what you get until it actually arrives at your door. The big thing to know about shopping for any vehicle is to read the warranty.
Okay.
If the warranty covers parts only and not labor, that's like the kiss of death. You know that it's not going to be very good quality if they won't cover the labor and the warranty.
That's good information, and you hear of the horror stories of people buying things online, or they show up somewhere and this person doesn't exist, or they pay them before they actually receive the product, which is a no-no. Don't ever do that. Don't ever pay anybody until after you receive it, but definitely hear some horror stories of that. And if people do want to come check you out, where should they go?
We're about 11 blocks from the Capitol down East Washington.
Okay.
Kind of behind the Avenue Bar. It's hard to see from East Wash, but it's worth looking.
Absolutely. You guys have a website too?
Scootertherapy.com, yes.
Perfect. So you can check them out in person, check them out online, give them a call and see what they've got going on. A lot of different avenues. Awesome.
Yes.
Fantastic. Again, Randy with Scooter Therapy, Inc. Thanks for being with us today, and thanks for bringing this ride.
Oh, thanks for inviting me.
Are you going to ride out of the studio today,
Most
too?
likely, yep.
Wonderful. Fantastic. Again, thank you so much. And we'll be back with more Talk of the Town here on Wisconsin's 57 right after this. Welcome back to Talk of the Town, and we are joined now by our news partner, Phil Anderson for U.S. Senate. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Ellen.
It's less than a week away until the election.
It is.
So today we're talking about voting. And
Voting.
first, I want to start off with, why should people vote?
Well, people need to have a voice, or should, I would think, want to have a voice in the affairs of their community. And unfortunately, government's got a very powerful effect on our lives, all aspects of our lives, social, economic, whatever they might be. So to have a voice in that, I think, is really important. You know, as libertarians, we want less voting, actually, which might sound a little different, but we prefer to have people making decisions about their own lives rather than having to submit to the democratic process. That's the best way to ensure the maximum amount of liberty and freedom. But insofar as things need to be governed, then people should go out and vote, so they've got a voice.
Why do you think people choose not to vote? I guess kind of going off of that.
Well, I think people don't realize how much effect government has on their lives, and they often feel that that their vote doesn't make much of a difference. So whether that means they don't see a difference between Republicans and Democrats, or they don't think that voting for anybody at all makes any difference whatsoever, they get a little bit apathetic because things don't seem to change, and that's something that that I and other libertarians want to affect change with, and that is so that people see a difference in political philosophies and that they actually have a choice.
I think that's a theme I've heard in this election coming up here more than I have in the past. So I guess kind of expanding on that, do you think there is a wasted vote?
Well, that's I think that's a false narrative
Okay.
that's perpetrated by Republicans and Democrats to get you to disregard third parties. I think a wasted vote is if you cast your vote for somebody that you don't believe in or that you are just sort of surrendering to. I think it's better to say don't surrender your vote than don't waste your vote, because again, if people don't agree with what Republicans and Democrats are doing, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction with what's going on in Washington, just holding your nose and voting for another Republican or Democrat isn't going to affect any change. If they see
Right.
people moving to voting for Gary Johnson or Jill Stein or myself or whoever, that's going to make things change in Washington, not just holding your nose and voting for the usual suspects.
So why should people vote for you this election?
Well, I'm the only candidate running for Senate who can really represent people in Wisconsin and the federal government. And the reason I say that is anybody who's a Democrat or a Republican who's been put forward to be elected for offices is already approved of by those parties, kind of by the nature of how it works, which means that they're already agreeing to put party before principle. Whereas I have the independence and the moral and political courage to say, this is wrong, we should do this, we shouldn't do that. And we've seen both of my opponents don't have the independence to do that because they're bound to their parties. That's a big difference. And I think it's important, even if you're not necessarily a libertarian, to actually be represented in Washington would be a relatively new thing, actually.
Now, you've been campaigning for the last year.
I have.
I kind of want to take a second to look back because,
A year.
wow, I know you've been a busy guy just
Yep,
getting
yep.
to know you over this time.
Sure.
What would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned over this past year?
I think there's two, and they're sort of the same lesson. And number one is that people really do want to be represented, and they want hope for the future and not the sort of the same old politics. They're really tired of the negative politicking, which you've seen it get worse and worse and worse over the course of this cycle at both the presidential, Senate, congressional level. So they're really, really sick and tired of that. But they're still very hopeful for the message that they can have representation in Washington. So it's sort of like a hope versus despair. And I think the whole election hinges on whether people are willing to go out and vote for hope and change, although that's another candidate's motto from 8 years ago, real hope and change,
Sure.
and dissent from the Washington two-party paradigm, as opposed to just either holding their nose and voting Republican and Democrat, or just not voting at all.
I think you bring up an interesting point because that is a really big, I guess, concept or idea in this election, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
It will. I mean, especially with the presidential politics that are going on, there's all kinds of ways you can look at people that support Trump, people support Clinton, how that affects down ticket, whether they're voting on principle or just with party affiliations. it's going to be a very, very interesting election night. Obviously, I'll follow it very closely.
Absolutely.
But you know, and we'll be, if anyone's interested, we're going to be at Brokash down on the square election night, as well as representatives from the Gary Johnson campaign. So people should feel free to come down there and join us.
We've only got a couple seconds left. Any final thoughts before we go?
Well, I'd like to thank Channel 57 for supporting me in this.
you.
It's been a fantastic relationship, and I hope it continues after the election. And I urge everyone to go vote. Again, your vote is your voice is your vote, so go vote and don't get trapped into voting for somebody you don't like or don't support.
A fantastic message to end on. Awesome. Again, Phil Anderson for U.S. Senate, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back with more Talk of the Town right after this. Welcome back to Talk of the Town, and I am joined now by our news partner, Eric Hewitt with Medicine Shop Pharmacy Monona. Thank you so much for being with us again today.
Thanks for having me back.
And we're talking today about some of the advantages of using an independent pharmacy, which I think is interesting because I think a lot of people have a lot of notions in their head about different chain pharmacies. So I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah.
But what would you say are the main differences between chain pharmacies and independent ones?
To me, I think for the medicine shop specifically, I think it boils down to customer service.
Yeah.
You know, we get to know our patients on a personal level. We get to know their names, who they are, what, you know, more specifically what their disease states are, and what, you know, we help them treat, you know, as part of their healthcare team. And so I think that's the main difference for us is that when it comes to price, and we probably will talk a little bit about that, most times it's not going to make a difference. Most times you probably should be making the choice based on service and the way you're treated, and even convenience sometimes at an independent pharmacy versus a chain pharmacy. So to me, those are the big things, you know, that you have a choice. Why not choose something that has a little bit better service and treats you a little bit better?
That's an interesting concept that I haven't thought before, especially when you're considering prescriptions, really, who it is. It's really important for somebody to know you and maybe the different prescriptions you're taking, or if you do have a health concern, so you can go to them and say, this is my situation, and they kind of are more familiar with it.
Absolutely. We always talk about being a part of our patient's healthcare team. You know, it's not just your doctors, it's not just you and the doctor in that examination room, that we're a part of the team too. And we can help kind of steer the doctors in the right direction with maybe a medication that has a fewer side effects or a side effect that the other one doesn't, you know, that kind of thing. And so we view ourselves as a part of that team, and getting to know our patients is a part of, you know, being the best part of that team that we can be.
Now, something you mentioned earlier was convenience, and I think people think, you know, a chain, maybe a lot of locations, it's more convenient, but how can an independent pharmacy also be convenient for people?
Yeah, I get this a lot, you know, I mean, and, you know, being in the environment that we're at in Monona, a lot of times people are passing one or two different chain pharmacies on our way to us. What we hear though when people come in after spending a lot of time at those pharmacies is, and I think sometimes it's by design by the chain pharmacies, when you drop off a prescription, they could tell you it's going to be an hour, hour and a half. Sometimes that's volume, you know, from them, but a lot of times that's because they want you to spend some time in the store, pick up, you know, a few other items maybe out in the front end. And although we have a lot of those items too that you can purchase, it's, you know, not the primary objective to make people wait in the store just so they browse and stuff like that. So a lot of times, you know, if we can get a prescription done that you're dropped off, maybe you're not feeling the greatest, we can get it done in 10 or 15 minutes. That's a lot more convenient than waiting around for an hour and a half or coming back in a couple hours to get it.
Absolutely, and that may even, you know, make up the drive time if it's a little bit of a difference. It still might be faster.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
Yes.
And so I know we mentioned too the price. So I think people assume that chain pharmacies are going to be cheaper just because of their size and the volume of what they have. Is that true?
It is not. I mean, for the vast majority of insurances that are out there, the insurance sets the price. So the pharmacy can't set the price at all.
Oh, okay.
So that's something definitely to check into to make sure if there's another pharmacy, maybe an independent in your area, if they accept your insurance, most likely the price is going to be the same. When it comes to paying out of pocket, if you don't have insurance, it's best to shop around, and actually most times you'll find that the independent pharmacies are going to be less expensive than the big chain pharmacies.
Are there services too that the medicine shop provides that maybe chain pharmacies don't provide?
Absolutely. We provide packaging for our patients, so there's certain people that are in their homes and are independent that maybe need a med box.
set up, so their medication's set up on a weekly basis, so they take it appropriately. We do those types of services. We have free delivery at Medicine Shop. And so,
Nice.
again, for people that can't get out or don't have access to a vehicle, we do that. So it's those types of added value services that we provide at the Medicine Shop that a lot of times you won't get at other places.
So quick before we go here, we're almost out of time, but if somebody is interested in making the switch to you guys, how do they go about doing that?
It's as simple as stopping in or giving us a call, and we'll take
Wow.
it from there. It's up to the pharmacy to get the transfer from the other place, so we'd love to sit down and talk with you, or if you call on the phone, we'll get down your information and take care of the rest. It's as simple as that.
Some great information. Again, our news partner, the Medicine Shop Pharmacy Monona. This is Eric Hewitt. Thank you for being with us today.
Thanks again for having me.
And thank you to all of our guests, and thank you for watching today. You can find us next time only on Wisconsin's 57.